I didn't know what to title this presentation, being that there is so much to discuss on this topic. I just labeled it according to what I discuss the most, as I can only focus on a few things at a time in one video. I've covered all types of topics on this channel, but I've never covered this. Why? Because I am nowhere close to being an expert on this subject matter. That's my disclaimer, by the way. So what you will get is an educated opinion coming from my own experiences, what I have observed, what has been studied, and what I have learned. So let me give you guys sort of an update on a statistic we all should be familiar with. Divorce rate by state 2022. Marriage and divorce are both common experiences for adults, although both can be challenging. About 90% of people in Western cultures marry by the age 50. I'll say that again. About 90% of people in Western cultures marry by age 50. In the United States, about 50% of married couples divorce, the sixth highest divorce rate in the world. Subsequent marriages have an even higher divorce rate. 60% of second marriages end in divorce, and 73% of all third marriages end in divorce. Well, so far so good, right? My goodness. You guys, I'm shaking my head right now. Divorces can be emotionally and financially difficult. They can greatly affect parents as well as the couple's children. Yeah, no shit. According to the United States Census Bureau, both marriage and divorce rates decreased from 2009 to 2019. The marriage rate for 2019 is 16.3 per 1,000 women, 15 and older. And the national divorce rate is 7.6. The average age for couples going through their first divorce is 30 years old. Couples are more or less likely to get divorced based on several factors. Couples married between the ages of 20 to 25 are 60% likely to get a divorce. Those who wait until they are older than 25 to get married are 24% less likely to get divorced. Those with strong religious beliefs are 14% less likely to get a divorce. The higher attainment of education someone has, the lower the risk of divorce is. According to a U.S. Census Bureau survey, the top 3 reasons for divorces are incompatibility, 43%. Oh wait, hold up. You mean to tell me people are getting married to people they don't even like? I wonder how often that happens. Infidelity, 28%. And money issues, 22%. Do you guys know what marriage really is? Or should I say, what it is really supposed to be? We as human beings are designed and wired to procreate. Now, because we are kind of left to our own devices, we start practicing sexual immorality. Even if we do not act upon our desires, it is on our minds. Marriage is freedom. Marriage releases you from having to live your life in a world of fornication, you see. Now, I didn't make that up. I learned that from the writings of St. Paul the Apostle. And if you thought I was going to say marriage is about love, this and that, then you've come to the wrong channel, my friend. There's a bit more to it, of course. There's another side. Hold on tight. There's some things you guys need to know. Now, for the matters you wrote about, it is good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman. But since sexual immorality is occurring, each man should have sexual relations with his own wife, and each woman with her own husband. And the reason for this is simply because it is healthier. Everyone knows that having one partner over your lifetime is much healthier than having hundreds. Because the truth is, folks, we have this ambidexterity when it comes to monogamy and polygamy. Getting into a relationship after relationship after relationship is poly. Just like having sex with one person while at the same time getting money from another who has the same romantic interest, while going out with another person to eat who has the same romantic interest is poly. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but yields it to her husband. In the same way, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but yields it to his wife. Do not deprive each other except perhaps by mutual consent and for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again so that Satan, the devil, will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. I say this as a concession, not as a command. I wish that all of you were as I am, but each of you has your own gift from God. One has this gift, another has that. And I agree 100%. Now to the unmarried and to the widows I say, it is good for them to stay unmarried, as I do. But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion. You see, folks, that's why marriage frees you from that. Or it's supposed to. Ideally. Anyway, to the married I give this command, not I, but the Lord. A wife must not separate from her husband, but if she does, she must remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband. And a husband must not divorce his wife. Period. To the rest I say this, I, not the Lord, if any brother has a wife who is not a believer and she is willing to live with him, he must not divorce her. And if a woman has a husband who is not a believer and he is willing to live with her, she must not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. Otherwise your children would be unclean. But as it is, they are holy. But if the unbeliever leaves, let it be so. The brother or the sister is not bound in such circumstances. God has called us to live in peace. How do you know, wife, whether you will save your husband? Or how do you know, husband, whether you will save your wife? And that's it. 15 verses, and yet people are confused about what they're getting married for. Nowhere in any of those verses did the author once mention anything about love. There are plenty of other verses about love, but not necessarily within the context of marriage. In fact, in Ephesians, it says that a husband should love his wife, and a wife should respect her husband. It doesn't say for her to love him. Gentlemen, did you know this? Let me say this about love, folks. You know that scripture everybody shares about love? You know, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Paul wrote that too. It says it right there in the first line. What it is. It is patience and kindness. Love is an endless energy flow of patience and kindness. You can walk around and replace the word love with patience and kindness, and it works. I mean, that's how we show people love, right? We show them patience and kindness. And I truly hope you guys don't mind me reading just a few more verses from that same chapter. I just need you to hear some of these things, and I think it will help to clear matters up for some people. Now, concerning the betrothed, or those engaged to be married, I have no command from the Lord, but I give my judgment as one who, by the Lord's mercy, is trustworthy. So he's just giving advice here, guys. I think that in view of the present distress, it is good for a person to remain as he is. Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be free. Are you free from a wife? Do not seek a wife. But if you do marry, you have not sinned. And if a betrothed woman marries, she has not sinned. Yet those who marry will have worldly troubles. And I would spare you that. And yes, the first worldly trouble of marriage, folks, is that legal document you sign. This is what I mean, brothers. The appointed time has grown very short. From now on, let those who have wives live as though they had none, and those who mourn as though they were not mourning, and those who rejoice as though they were not rejoicing, and those who buy as though they had no goods, and those who deal with the world as though they had no dealings with it, for the present form of this world is passing away. I want you to be free from anxieties. The unmarried man is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to please the Lord. But the married man is anxious about worldly things, how to please his wife. And his interests are divided. And the unmarried or betrothed woman is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to be holy in body and spirit. But the married woman, this is a difference. I'll repeat it. And the unmarried or betrothed engaged woman is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to be holy in body and spirit. But the married woman is anxious about worldly things, how to please her husband. I say this for your own benefit, not to lay any restraint upon you, but to promote good order and to secure your undivided devotion to the Lord. If anyone thinks that he is not behaving properly toward his betrothed, if his passions are strong, and it has to be, let him do as he wishes. Let them marry. It is no sin. But whoever is firmly established in his heart, being under no necessity but having his desire under control, and has determined this in his heart, to keep her as his betrothed, he will do well. Okay, did you guys understand that line? So then, he who marries his betrothed does well, and he who refrains from marriage will do even better. So, that's marriage, folks. Speaking of which, you guys have to know and understand something. You see, a long time ago, churches began to be built. Now, in order to maintain a church, you need the contribution or funds from the people who attend the church. The biggest contributors are families. So in order to keep families coming into the church regularly, you have to keep marrying people so that they have families and you can keep that flow of income coming in for generations. People forget what getting married is in the first place. As soon as you sleep with a person, you're instantly married, pretty much. Because you're just exchanging vows and swearing your commitment to each other in front of witnesses. You see, that's why proposals are often done in public. That's why marriages often get published. You're getting permission from the family, or traditionally the father, to let his daughter move in with you. That's it. Weddings, ceremonies, again, that's the church's doing. That's people making an event out of it. That's all. This is reality. As soon as people make things transactional, which is signing that legal document, you are already planning ahead for a divorce, because you know in the back of your mind that getting a divorce is another legal procedure. You can't just walk away from each other in peace, as recommended by Paul, you see? And this is what happens when you have churches making laws. If people actually did things according to the Bible, we wouldn't be having these problems. But people don't freaking listen. They keep wanting to do things their way and wonder why their lives get destroyed just because they wanted to move in with someone. And the worst thing is, you can't get married or divorced for free. Now, that divorce rate will likely increase over time, and the marriage rate will likely decline over time, and less people will be getting legally married. Now, with all that stated, let's continue into what's happening today. Let's talk about what's happening with relationships today, particularly between men and women. A few decades ago, if a man or a woman wanted to date, they would both be limited primarily to the people who were physically present in their day-to-day lives. Unless you met someone who lived far away. In that case, you could keep in touch through mail and phone calls, but that's it. You can send pictures in the mail if you wanted to. Now, the thing is, if you wanted to have options back then, it was much easier said than done, and only a few could pull that off. Ladies were still being approached, but today, all that's changed. Today, due to social media, it's a whole new ball game. Now both men and women can have multiple partners for different purposes. I personally, at this point in my life, choose not to engage in marriage or engage in a relationship for that matter. And now I'm not going full monk mode, but there is a certain power you gain when you go solo and you don't worry about having anybody. With everything that is going on today, and with all the information someone like myself has absorbed over the past few years, and I've told some of my friends this, I look at people getting into relationships today and I think, that just sounds like a bad deal. The point is, if you're happy in your relationship, then be happy in it. If you're alone, be happy not being in it. Remember, we are ambidextrous in that manner. We do have the ability of self-control. Listen, God is not concerned about rituals. He wants us to live healthy lives. And so what most people think are laws are just recommendations on how we should live if we, in the end, want the best results. You see? Now today, we have all this terminology to classify people in the relationship scene. It's quite extraordinary. MGTOW, men going their own way, incels, monk mode, nofap, which I do want to discuss in another video. 304s, boss babes, sugar babies, hookup culture is on the rise. People have a sexual market value now, or SMV. We have high value males, alpha males, beta males, sigma males, stoic males. People are talking about women hitting the wall at a certain age, dating coaches and psychologists. They are out there really breaking it down. I don't subscribe to it all, but I do see patterns. You take away social media, and a lot of that stuff clears up. but it's not going anywhere, so we're all screwed. Because today, a man approaches a woman to get to know her, and she has a cell phone with Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, OnlyFans, all full of men who also want to get to know her. Good luck, buddy. You take your chances competing with that. It can be the same for men too, except the ratio is different, and the options are just not the same. It's like apples and oranges. Take dating apps, for example, where 80% of females only say yes to the top 20% of males, and half of those females are only there for likes and approval. They're not there to meet people. So over 70% of the men on those apps get virtually no attention. And no matter what the female looks like, she gets attention from the top 20% of the men, the median, and the bottom 10%. Now you take those same men who are in the middle, the average male, who really don't get attention on those dating apps. You put that same guy on a sugar baby app. Now everything is in reverse. Not only are the women now competing for him, they are more attractive women than on those other apps. And they actually respond quickly. You see how things are all screwed up, people? Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are in hard times because of weak men. And those hard times have caused people to become increasingly desperate. There's a whole underworld to this, and not many people get to see it. I have to look this stuff up and talk to people, and if you only knew half of what people do in discretion, it would blow your mind. I'm talking about the average person you see out there every day. The guy or gal that you want to get to know. Boy, oh boy. You really have to consider what world you live in and what world they are coming from. That's all for now, folks. As you can see, there is way too much to discuss on this subject, but we will entertain it in the future. I want to finish all this off with what's happening to women in our society to bring this all together and move into some other topics of interest. So stay tuned for that. Please visit woodwardentertainment.com and the Woodward Entertainment store. You can follow me on Instagram at JAEWoodward. Patience and kindness, folks. I love you all, and that will never end. God bless, and always stay awake, stay aware, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all soon.